Hi, friends. I just watched the latest episode, and I have to be honest, I am so angry. I am shaking. The cruelty on screen is worse than we thought. This is not a man revising a story. This is a man trying to erase it. He is rewriting family history in real time, and the mask is slipping. There is a smug smile where an apology should be, a staged romance where accountability should live. What we see next is a performance, and it is covering poison. Boxes on the move, flexing for the camera, awkward flirting that feels forced, not tender. It is uncomfortable, and it matters because it sells a lie. A great love story presented as the prize for breaking a 30-year family. He calls it battle buddies, not lovers. The same man who took 10 days for a honeymoon is now asking for sympathy. That is not happiness. That is a campaign. A smiling front right beside the rage underneath. The performance says he won. The facts say he lost control. He lost wives, he lost kids, he lost respect. All that remains is a staged love and a growing bitterness. And when bitterness leads, the past gets burned to justify the present. On screen and online, a new silence grows around Dayton. The son who once stood behind Robyn in every family scene has vanished. No confessionals, no cameos, not even a mention. But then, Peyton goes live on TikTok and lights a match. He says Dayton was kicked off the show for doing something bad. The comment floods with questions, and Peyton smirks before walking it back. A week later, he rescinds it all, saying, "I take back every lie I said about Dayton." That line hits harder than he knows, because if it was a lie, why was it believed? And if it wasn't, why the panic to erase it? The silence after that live was deafening. Dayton didn't respond. Robyn didn't respond. Kody smiled through interviews as if nothing existed beyond his new house and his new script. But fans noticed. The show noticed. And suddenly the question turned into a storm. Where is Dayton? Peyton's denial didn't close the rumor. It opened a new wound. Because once you call something a lie, you admit you said it. And once you delete it, people start digging. That's when the story changes from gossip to pattern. The same pattern we've seen for years. Control followed by silence. Exposure followed by erasure. A son disappears, and a mother calls it protection. A father calls it loyalty. And everyone else calls it what it is. Isolation. Every time this family starts to fracture, the same words return. Loyalty, respect, obedience. They sound harmless until you see who's expected to surrender them. In Kody's world, loyalty means silence. Respect means compliance, and obedience means love. Dayton grew up inside that system. Every rule came through his mother first, softened in her voice but sharpened by Kody's glare. During the Flagstaff move, the narrative was simple. It was about schools, nature, and a fresh start. But off camera, it was about keeping Robyn's oldest son close. He had been accepted to NAU, ready to live independently, ready to try adulthood without cameras. But that was never allowed to happen. Robyn didn't want distance. Kody didn't trust autonomy. So the move became a leash disguised as love. The same script played out again during the pandemic. When other families questioned Kody's strict rules, Dayton wanted balance. He wanted to see friends, to be treated like an adult. But Kody called independence unsafe. Robyn called it disrespect, and Dayton stopped showing up on camera. He was there somewhere in the background, but never visible. Just like the others before him who stopped playing along, Christine once said they moved to Flagstaff for the kids' futures. But the more we watched, the clearer it became. They didn't move for opportunity, they moved for control. Every house was a boundary, every camera angle, a reminder of who got to be seen. When Kody talked about his family coming together, it was always a command, not an invitation. And Robyn, steady beside him, nodded through it all. Protecting her son meant agreeing with the man who isolated him. By the time Dayton finished college, the distance between him and his siblings was solid. No group photos, no holiday appearances, just silence. And that silence looked a lot like strategy. Because when someone resists, Kody doesn't argue. He rewrites. He calls it choice. He calls it safety. He calls it not wanting to be on TV. But behind those words sits a pattern too familiar to ignore. It was supposed to be a visit, nothing more. A summer after graduation. A chance for Dayton to see his biological father again. The man erased from his story years ago. He drove north, out of Flagstaff, out of Kody's reach. 3 weeks on the road, camping, laughing, remembering who he was before the cameras. And when he came home, everything changed. Kody was furious. Robyn was shaken. They called it betrayal, not reunion. Because to them, contact with the past meant disloyalty to their version of the present. Dayton had crossed a line he didn't know existed. He had chosen freedom, even for a few weeks, and now he would pay for it. From then on, every interaction was tight. Kody watched him like a tenant, not a son. Robyn tiptoed between them, apologizing to both, rescuing neither. And when Dayton pushed back, small things like curfews, chores, opinions, the air thickened with control. He wanted to live like other young men his age. Kody wanted order. Robyn wanted peace. So they settled on punishment disguised as compromise. Dayton was moved into the RV, still on the property, but out of the house. Close enough to control, far enough to forget. Neighbors saw it parked by the driveway, silent at night, a single light flickering through the curtain. Robyn told realtors it was temporary, but nothing about that arrangement felt temporary. It was isolation, plain and deliberate. When the family filmed during that period, Dayton's absence became the new normal. Episodes rolled out without him. Robyn's smiles grew tighter. Kody's speeches about respecting boundaries sounded rehearsed. And every time a sibling asked about Dayton, Robyn said he was fine, a word that always means the opposite in this family. Behind closed doors, resentment grew. Kody didn't want him on camera until he was ready to respect the rules. Dayton didn't want to perform. Robyn stood between them, frozen. It wasn't a family anymore. It was a containment zone. And when control is the goal, even silence becomes a weapon. The fallout didn't happen on camera. It unfolded online, in whispers, TikToks, and Patreon posts. Every rumor was a fragment of a missing person's story. Dayton's. And every voice trying to explain it was talking over the silence left behind. Peyton stepped into that silence first. He opened a TikTok live, smiling too wide, and said his brother had been kicked off the show. The chat exploded. He loved the attention, but not the consequences. Within days, he walked it back, saying, "I take back all lies about Dayton." He laughed through the apology, but the family didn't, because the more he spoke, the more real the absence became. McKelty tried to fix it. She told her followers Dayton didn't want to speak to anyone. No contact, no reconciliation. She said he refused every attempt to reconnect. Her tone was defensive, but underneath it was grief. The siblings who once shared holidays, birthdays, games, now strangers. Separated not by miles, but by control. Fans filled the gaps with theories. Some said Dayton had been rebellious. Others said he had been silenced. A few whispered that Robyn was protecting him from the chaos outside. But every theory circled back to the same question. Who benefits from his disappearance? The answer always pointed to the couple in the mansion. The only household left that still follows Kody's version of order. In confessional clips, Robyn spoke about loyalty and heartbreak. She said her kids were misunderstood, that they just wanted peace. But peace built on silence is not peace, it's obedience. And the cost of obedience is visibility. Each season, fewer scenes, fewer voices, more control. Until the only story left is Kody's. When the Reddit thread started dissecting addresses, fans noticed something chilling. Dayton's name was still tied to Kody and Robyn's property records. Not Montana, not Texas. Still the same house by the cinder mine. Still the same roof where the cameras roll, but he's never shown. Still the same pattern. Hide what doesn't fit, deny what can't be hidden. Every story about this family eventually circles back to control dressed as care. That's where Dayton lives now. Inside that contradiction. Protected but trapped. Loved but unheard. His name spoken only when someone else needs to explain it away. Dayton was never built for this world of lights and confessionals. He's analytical, quiet, sensitive. Autistic, yes, but capable. He finished college, earned awards, and proved he could stand on his own. What he couldn't escape was the fear his mother carried. Robyn's love is fierce, but it's also suffocating. Every decision she's made since joining the family has been about keeping what's hers close. And the closer she holds, the smaller everyone becomes. When Kody calls Robyn his loyal wife, he's not talking about devotion. He's talking about agreement. She echoes his narrative even when it hurts her kids. She lets him rewrite her son's independence as rebellion. She lets him frame Dayton's quiet as disrespect. Because in this house, peace comes from silence, not understanding. And that's the tragedy. Not that Dayton vanished, but that his silence is rewarded. He doesn't need permission to live, but he's been conditioned to wait for it. Each time the show films, his absence is a message. This is what happens when you stop playing along. Kody calls it choice. Robyn calls it protection. But the truth sits somewhere in the empty spaces where Dayton used to stand. The other kids see it clearly. They've lived it. They know what it feels like to be rewritten. Christine's daughters call it brainwashing. Janelle's kids call it control. And every time a sibling tries to speak about Dayton, they hit a wall. ROBYN'S wall. Her voice trembling with guilt, her eyes wet, her words polished. He just doesn't want to be on camera. But under that line is a mother terrified of losing her last claim to power. What makes this moment hurt the most is what we'll never hear. Dayton's own voice, his version of events, the one that doesn't pass through his mother's filter or his stepfather's rules. Until that day comes, we only have silence, and the shape of control it leaves behind. SW said, "The silence speaks louder than any of them now." Peyton has gone quiet. Robyn keeps her soft smile in place. Kody fills the screen with speeches about loyalty and loss. But the one person everyone is asking about Dayton remains unseen. Every family story ends with a version of peace. This one ends with a cover-up disguised as calm. Peyton's rumor burned fast. But what it revealed, that raw question of where Dayton is and why he's gone, never faded. Because absence doesn't erase a person. It exposes the power that made them disappear. Robyn stands firm in her house. The mansion she swore was for the kids. Dayton's name is still tied to the address. His car unseen, his room never shown. Neighbors say nothing. The show cuts around his image, and Kody keeps smiling, like a man who believes he controls the story by deleting it. But control isn't victory. It's isolation. A love story that ended as a fortress. A mother who confused safety with possession. A father who replaced accountability with PR. And a son whose silence tells the truth louder than they ever could. Maybe Dayton chose quiet. Maybe it was chosen for him. Either way, the result is the same. The family we once watched fall apart now exists in fragments, held together by denial. Peyton talks for attention. The siblings stay guarded. And the parents still pretend that silence equals peace. This isn't a happy ending. It's an unfinished one. Because as long as the cameras roll without him, the question remains, where is Dayton, and why can't anyone say it out loud? If you've watched this family long enough, you already know. Silence is never random here. It's protection, punishment, and control all at once. And this time, the price of that silence might be their last connection to the truth. So tell me in the comments, who crossed the line? Was it Peyton for speaking, or Kody and Robyn for keeping him hidden? And do you think trust can ever return after this much silence? Subscribe if you're following this storyline, because it's not over yet.